Ladies and gentlemen, with the Rift update having been out for a few days now, information about future updates is already starting to creep into Hypixel Skyblock. My name is Derailious, welcome back to Skyblock News, and let's launch right into it. Our first piece of information today comes from Nitroholic on Twitter, who's a Skyblock admin. They actually posted something fairly interesting regarding future dungeon features, notably the ability to re-queue into a dungeon after a failure. This was actually a pretty well requested feature that I think a lot of people have been looking for, and I also wouldn't be that surprised if the feature allowed you to re-queue into dungeons after completing one. Something else I think a lot of people noticed was the fact that you were actually able to load into the dungeon solo, something that I think a lot of people have been looking for and will likely make frag bots irrelevant. Really nice to see these changes and continued improvements to dungeons even years after it originally came out. Another smaller but still pretty interesting development occurred on 30virus' stream the other day, in which it was a showcase of an Abiphone, but it had a pretty special, interesting little perk on it. Notably, the ability to be in Do Not Disturb mode. Now I can only imagine that this prevents you from getting calls from NPCs like Aranya, which actually I consider a great thing. The spider calls you literally every time you log on, and I for one would love to be rid of her calling. In my opinion, that would be a great quality of life feature, and honestly, the Abiphones have been worked on and improved upon a whole bunch. We've gotten more and more contacts over the last few updates, and I wouldn't be that shocked if this update in the future contained some more Abiphone contacts, especially for early game players. Based on the post a couple days ago made by the admins regarding Skyblock nerds in the application thread, it was pretty obvious that they're working on some sort of back-end update that'll improve many parts of the game, including dungeons and also the early game experience. Things like this new auto re-queue of dungeons and also going in solo, along with the new Abiphone upgrade, seem to be a step in that direction. Another thing I want to mention here is that it's likely that we're going to see this come along with some other improvements to the game, potentially even Skyblock chapters. For those who don't remember what Skyblock chapters was, it's essentially a way for players to have some sort of set progression in the game. I remember a few people asking me about this, but how it would work is that you would get a sort of objective to do, and if you completed it, you would get coins or some sort of XP bump. I think it was a pretty neat system, but it doesn't seem to have been reappearing on Alpha whenever we go to test something. It's likely that they're working on it in the back end, and they're still making improvements to it, so it's entirely possible that when it comes out on Alpha next time, or when it releases for real, it looks a little bit different. I'm fairly excited for something like this though. Skyblock has always needed a little bit more of a linear storyline progression, maybe not in the way of questing, but in a way of guiding the player through the game and showing them everything the game has to offer. Because honestly, there is so much going on right now in Skyblock that it's kind of unreal to talk about. With the Rift update adding so many new features and items and mobs and enemies and all that stuff to the game, it really is one of the best times to get into the game. At the end of the day though, my name is Derailious, thank you so much for watching this video till the end, and look to the future fellas, because I will see you then.